Think about the first thing that comes to your mind when you wake up.
Your alarm's incessant ringing forcing you out of dreamland.
The daily morning chaos at home.
Or perhaps, the woody roasted scent seeping into your senses, force opening your slumbering eyes.
That comforting warmth slowly inching its way through your being, gently rousing you to life.
We're talking about none other than our morning savior, coffee.
It's a ritual for many of us, a reassuring constant.
This seemingly harmless beverage carries profound psychological associations in its wake.
A catalyst for waking consciousness, a potent symbol of habit and comfort.
We carry our coffee choices and rituals like extended DNA, right?
Absolutely, Daniel. Our coffee choice says more about us than we realize.
In some cases, an entirely different language altogether. Are you a 2 pumps of caramel with soy milk type? Or maybe a quadruple shot espresso one?
And it's not only about the taste. Coffee is the fabric that knits most people's mornings together.
Our life almost orbits around this mug of molten magic.
So sit back, folks. Let's peer through this creamy, frothy lens into our psychological selves.
You know, I was once thrown off my axis because I ran out of coffee.
Wait, that sounds intense.
I kid you not. Waking up just wasn't the same. My morning rituals were stalled. Everything seemed off.
It's more than a beverage. It's an alarm clock without the annoying buzz and a mental cue for the start of a new day.
Exactly. There's this underappreciated role that coffee plays in our daily routine that we hardly stop to reflect on till it is starkly absent.
It's about the ritual, isn't it? The smell of coffee brewing, holding your warm mug. It's a moment of quiet calm before the rush of the day.
Absolutely. It's this routine that, interestingly, plays a massive part of our psychological and physical waking up. In some way, I think our bodies meditate on this routine, finding comfort, solace, and ultimately, alertness.
So it's safe to say our interactions with coffee, that minute-by-minute progression from aroma, warmth to taste, can be paralleled to the gradual awakening of our senses.
It's not just about jump-starting your body, it's signaling your brain that the day has begun. It's a catalyst for productivity.
And it's not just at mornings. Think about the small breaks we take during a hectic workday. We seek coffee, for a moment of focus, for a moment of relaxation. I wonder, though, what is the environmental impact of this coffee consumption? Daniel?
Well, we'll save that for later, Aileen. For now, let's stick to the soothing, comforting, and routine aspects of coffee culture. So let's explore coffee types and what they reveal about us.
Sure, let's take black coffee first. There is something simple yet bold about its flavor. Something that symbolizes strength.
I see. So would you say that black coffee drinkers might be purists, appreciators of authenticity?
Possibly, considering their coffee is unadulterated, suggesting an ability to handle tough, unfiltered experiences.
Interesting. What about latte lovers?
Latte, it has an enriching, creamy texture. Usually it's seen as a gentler version of coffee. Maybe those who prefer this are looking for a soothing, balanced experience.
I can see that. A latte can be a comforting presence, perhaps mirroring the drinker's need for warmth and balance in life.
Now that makes sense. What about the cappuccino and espresso fans?
Well, espresso is strong, intense, similar to black coffee, but its concentration could hint at a fast-paced lifestyle. Similarly, cappuccino, with its equal parts of espresso, steam milk, and froth, might indicate a love for harmony, balance.
But I wonder about the people who like to add flavors, like vanilla or caramel. What does it tell about them?
Maybe they appreciate variety, trying new experiences. They might not like routine and seek diversity, even in their coffee.
That's a good point. It's fascinating how our coffee preferences can provide insight into our psyche.
Indeed. This makes our coffee breaks even more intriguing, doesn't it?
And what of the cold brew aficionados?
Cold brew. It's a gentle process, isn't it? The coffee grounds steep at room temperature for a long time. It's a beverage for those who don't mind waiting, who appreciate the slow seeping time. Could it be linked to patience and a laid-back nature?
I think it could be. Cold brew lovers might have the capacity to enjoy the subtleties and complexities of life without rushing things. It's easy to picture them savoring each moment.
I am with you, Aileen. But on the other hand, cold brew is also preferred by those who cannot handle acidity, so it could represent a need for smoothness, a dislike for rough edges, metaphorically speaking.
So, patience and a dislike for harshness. It's interesting how coffee can mirror one's character traits. And flavored coffee, like vanilla or caramel, where do they fit?
I'd wager that flavor additions could suggest a love for sweetness, an inclination towards indulgence, or a need for change, a break from the norm, perhaps a degree of adventure.
That seems reasonable. It could also mean they enjoy comforting and familiar tastes or have a weakness for nostalgia. These flavors have been staples in desserts for ages, after all.
True, Aileen, but I also wonder, does the pursuit of these new flavors mean they're willing to experiment, to explore?
There definitely could be an element of that. The willingness to disrupt the pure taste of coffee could indicate a desire for diversity and novelty.
All right, from the way we sip and savor to the flavors we favor, how our coffee reveals our personality. Now let's venture into the role of coffee in different cultures. Aileen, as a Filipino living in Korea, how does your unique perspective shape your view on coffee's cultural significance?
Well, growing up in the Philippines, coffee was often served in every household. Sometimes we'd add sweetened condensed milk for a distinct taste. In contrast, in Korea, coffee shops are everywhere, offering an assortment of milky lattes and frappes. Quite an experience, and one that draws people to socialize or work in these spaces.
It seems coffee and its consumption can embody a culture's pace, doesn't it? In Italy, they revel in espresso shots, rapid trips to standing-only bars becoming a counterpoint to their unhurried la dolce vita. Coffee as a reflection of lifestyle. Quite fascinating, isn't it?
Absolutely. Here in the U.S., our love of coffee spurred the creation of giants like Starbucks. Coffee for us is fuel, something we grab in large takeaway cups and consume on the go as we soldier through our hectic lives. It's a symbol of the American hustle.
Just look how one drink unites us in varied rituals across borders. From the Italian espresso bars to the American drive-thrus, from savoring café con leche in Spain to the traditional Ethiopian coffee ceremony, we've so many different faces, yet we're all under the same coffee sky, aren't we? Let's transcend beyond our borders and analyze coffee's cultural charm. Turkish coffee readings. I'm curious, have you heard about this?
Oh yes, I have. It's a century-old tradition where after drinking your Turkish coffee, the shapes left by the coffee grounds at the bottom of the cup are interpreted to predict your future. Isn't it fascinating how coffee integrates itself with supernatural beliefs?
It certainly is. Blending a daily habit with the ethereal, creating a unique cultural ritual. It suggests how central coffee is, even in countries like Turkey where tea is the beverage of choice for many.
Absolutely. And it's not just Turkey. In Ethiopia, too, coffee can play a unique spiritual role. Being the birthplace of coffee, Ethiopia has a whole coffee ceremony that involves blessings and communal bonding. I've had the fortune of participating in one, and it truly is a profound experience.
That sounds beautiful, Daniel. I believe no matter where you go, coffee easily seeps into a culture's fabric, embedding itself in rituals, heritage, social connections, and even mystical practices, becoming an unspoken language for unity and bonding.
True, Aileen. It's fascinating how coffee, being merely a household name, transforms into a cultural identifier across nations, building bridges in the most unanticipated ways. But everything considered, these rituals also subtly mold our psychological associations with coffee, merging warmth, connection, comfort, and sometimes a hint of the mystical.
Talking about socializing over coffee always reminds me of cafes, the places where most coffee meetings occur. What do you think is the psychological appeal of meeting over coffee? How do you feel cafes function as social hubs?
Cafes tend to offer a nice middle ground. They're not as formal as an office, yet not as personal as someone's home. It straddles that balance of intimacy and neutrality. I think when we suggest meeting over coffee, we're inviting others into a shared comfortable space. It's more about the atmosphere and exchange of thoughts than the coffee itself.
Yeah, it's a low-pressure setting where interactions can flow more naturally. It's also interesting how we associate different kinds of meetings with coffee. Like, a catch-up with an old friend or an informal interview is very coffee, while a romantic date might be considered more a dinner setting. Do you think there's a reason for this distinction?
That's a great point, Aileen. Coffee dates probably reflect our modern-day comfort with casualness. It's like an audition, low commitment, maximum potential. We're testing the waters, seeing if there's compatibility or a spark before jumping into the deep end. Plus, the caffeine probably helps keep the conversation flowing.
Exactly, Daniel. And it's not just about first-time meetings or catching up. Think about intrapersonal relationships at workplaces. The coffee break, or the water cooler moment, is where employees get the chance to interact on a personal level, encouraging healthier workplace dynamics. You know, the funny thing about coffee breaks at work is that they aren't really about the coffee at all. It's more about a breather, a pause in the workday, and the opportunity to engage with colleagues on a personal level.
Yeah, it's the quintessential chit-chat zone. It's where bonds are formed, whether you're discussing last night's game or chatting about weekend plans. The break room interaction over a cup of coffee can actually reveal a lot about workplace dynamics.
Could it be that these informal coffee interactions are influencing creativity and efficiency at work?
I think so. I perceive a link. These breaks allow for mental rest, thereby boosting productivity. An open conversation, a light joke while sipping coffee, decreases work stress. There's a reason why tech companies are going all out in setting up cool kitchens and coffee lounges.
I become more approachable with a coffee mug in my hand. Notice that? Many of us can relate to this. It gives a sense of commonality, a shared routine bridging the gap between management and staff.
And it's not just in the corporate world. We see coffee bonding in various professional settings. Who can forget those endless night shifts at the hospital where the doctors are powered by coffee?
Yes, Ale. We've seen countless scenes in movies where decisions happen around coffee machines, powerful ones too. I guess coffee makes you feel part of the team, and a stronger team means improved productivity. Have you ever paid attention to the language of ordering coffee?
You mean like latte with 2 sugars or black no crema?
Exactly. In my bartending days, I recall some very specific, sometimes eccentric orders. These orders often spoke volumes about the person, from their lifestyle down to their mood that day.
Now that you mention it, I've noticed the faculty lounge has an invisible divide between the regular and decaf folks. Regulars seem to be more energetic, fast-paced.
And decaf drinkers typically project a more relaxed, health-conscious image. Although context is key, like choosing decaf post-dinner suggests a preference for less stimulation, a value for good sleep.
Do you think the regular or decaf debate goes deeper, hinting towards personality traits, Daniel?
Well, there's a sociological lens to it. Consider it this way. Opting for decaf may mean you resist popular opinion, that you have certain confidence in your unique preference.
Or maybe they simply enjoy the coffee taste without the caffeine kick.
Definitely a possibility, Autumn. The beauty lies in appreciating the diversity behind coffee orders. Each symphony of words tells a story about the person uttering them.
This reminds me of a study I read about. It indicated that people ordering complicated coffee tend to be more detail-oriented, while easygoing people prefer simple orders. Thoughts on this, guys?
That seems plausible. In fact, complexity in ordering can be a form of subtle control over the environment. The pleasure derived from customizing our beverages to suit our specific tastes gives us a minor boost in confidence.
I'd agree. Ordering is not only about the beverage, but about human expression and individuality, too.
Yeah. Ordering coffee isn't just a transaction, it's a ritual of communication. There's something magical in it.
Isn't it interesting how the style of coffee we choose can reflect our pace of life? Espresso versus drip coffee comes up as a good example.
Right. Espresso drinkers, quick shots straight to the bloodstream. Could that signal a fast-paced lifestyle?
Interestingly enough, in my experience at the bar, I often found those in hurry preferring espressos. It's a quick, intense burst of caffeine, fitting for those with packed schedules or individuals always racing against time.
But what about the drip coffee drinkers? That cuts a contrast, doesn't it?
Completely, Aileen. Drip coffee takes time. The process is slower, more patient. Its drinkers often appear to have a more comfortable pace of life. They actually take out time to savor the flavors, which reflects a more relaxed approach.
That makes me think of my colleague. She's the chillest person, always has a mug of drip coffee at her desk.
Of course, we can't paint everyone with the same brush. These are just possibilities, each one carrying its unique story.
Absolutely, Daniel. Our beverage choices, in this case coffee, accentuate our personalities, lifestyles, or moods in multitudes of ways.
Think about that boost of energy and lifting of spirits many of us experience after the first sip of coffee. It's the caffeine kick, right?
Absolutely, Autumn. It's an incredible, near-instant mood lift, and yes, it's mainly due to caffeine. The psychoactive substance present in coffee is known to stimulate the central nervous system, enhancing alertness and driving away feelings of lethargy.
But over time, doesn't the human body tend to develop a tolerance to caffeine?
That's correct, Aileen. And with tolerance, the mood-lifting effects get diminished substantially, prompting increased consumption. But that comes with its own set of implications.
Like dependence, right? My friend, for instance, cannot function without her morning cup.
Yes, and not having coffee then leads to withdrawal symptoms. Speaking from personal experience, I once tried going cold turkey and suffered headaches, irritability, and lethargy.
The symptoms you experienced, Aileen, can arise due to abrupt cessation of caffeine, and it can potentially affect mental health, precipitating depression and anxiety.
Is that why we often hear debates on whether caffeine is good or bad?
Exactly, Autumn. Coffee, or more precisely caffeine, can be both a savior and a devil at the same time. Its effects vary from person to person. For some, it ignites creativity and productivity. For others, anxiety and sleeplessness.
So, moderation becomes key with anything relating to our health, including our beloved coffee.
Has anyone contemplated the fascinating shift of coffee shops over time?
You mean from traditional meeting places to vibrant workstations?
Precisely. From catching up with old friends over a steaming cappuccino, coffee shops have taken a leap, becoming an entirely different space for freelancers and remote workers.
Isn't it linked with the third place concept?
Yes, Autumn. The third place theory by Ray Oldenburg, right? Home being the first place, work the second, and this so-called third place, being an environment where one can relax, interact, or even work.
Exactly. And coffee shops fit perfectly into this mold. They provide a tranquil ambiance that many find conducive to creativity and productivity.
That's why it's not surprising freelancers and even students prefer setting up their workstations in coffee shops. Personally, I've written some of my best lessons while sipping on a caramel latte. The buzz just brings out the creativity in me.
Funny you say that, Autumn. Having worked as a bartender, I've seen diverse crowd. Folks coming in with laptops and earphones, lost in their work. That should tell us something about this thriving coffee shop culture, shouldn't it?
It does, Daniel. Is it also about networking, considering coffee shops often render a meeting point for diverse professions?
Hit the mark, Aileen. It's like an unstructured co-working space, isn't it? Where people network, ideas spark, and collaborations brew, all over a cup of coffee. Fascinating, isn't it? Ever felt left out in a conversation simply because you don't drink coffee?
Happen to know someone who feels that way, Daniel?
Actually, yes, Aileen. There's my buddy, Mike. We all gather at a coffee shop, chats erupt as we sip our coffees. And there's Mike with his water, sometimes a juice, lost in the crowd. Guess he feels that exclusion. It's an interesting dynamic how coffee plays into one's identity.
Right, Daniel. Your coffee choices can influence people's perception of you. Picture this. Someone orders a black coffee, no sugar. They're instantly judged as serious or intense. On the other hand, the person sipping a frap seems playful or adventurous. It's strange, isn't it?
Absolutely. But let's not forget the ever-so-dreaded coffee snob.
Ah, the quintessential coffee snob. The individuals who look down on anything that is not single origin, precision brewed coffee.
Yes, they're enthusiasts, but can be intimidating, right? So how do they affect this coffee culture?
They're pivotal, Autumn. They push the boundaries of brewing methods, of trying new blends, new origins. It's because of them we have this explosion of coffee shops around us. Yet their behavior also brings in an elitism in coffee culture that can sometimes push non-coffee drinkers to the fringes.
Seems like, in this world wired by coffee, your cup of joe isn't just a beverage anymore. It has become an extension of your personality, your identity. All right, jumping off from where we were, a topic that we can't gloss over, the environmental impacts of coffee.
Though we are talking mostly about the symbolic and psychological side of things, we cannot escape this reality. Do you ever feel guilty when you sip coffee every day from your non-reusable cup?
Those single-use cups? Yes, Autumn, I guess we all do. I mean, there's a saying that ignorance is bliss, right? As we gain awareness about the harm we're causing, this guilt sinks in. It's making us rethink our coffee habits.
In a way, it's the price we pay for convenience. On the go, grab a cup, throw it away. Easy, quick, but neglecting the cycle that follows, the waste generation.
And it isn't just about the cups. There are substantial environmental concerns associated with coffee production too, primarily due to deforestation and overuse of water. Isn't it alarming, Daniel?
It is, Autumn, it truly is. If I'm being honest, I lack a nuanced understanding, but it's clear we need a drastic shift. Customers are key. Current habits are not sustainable.
I think we're already starting to see that shift as people become more conscious of their carbon footprint. I, for example, have been trying to use reusable cups more often. But it's hard, isn't it? Making the transition.
And don't forget about ethically sourced coffee. The surge in its demand is driving much-needed changes in the supply chain. At least, that's the hope.
Exactly. Ethically sourced coffee, whether it's about fair trade or being organic, could be a step forward. I can't believe that we're almost out of time. It's been a whirlwind of a discussion, and I hope our listeners enjoyed it as much as we did. It's startling to think just how deep the rabbit hole goes with coffee, isn't it?
Truly. From the daily rituals it's involved in, to how it shapes our personality and culture, it's astounding how a simple beverage can hold such a sway over our lives.
I couldn't agree more. And it's worth noting we started with romanticizing the sensory appeal of coffee and ended up touching on the environmental impacts we seldom ponder. Quite a journey.
Indeed. I think what I can take away from this, and our listeners too, is the question of how we order our coffee. Does our, let's say, choice between a flat white or black coffee really reveal something about us beyond the taste preference? It's food for thought.
And let's not forget the social aspect. It's no secret how coffee, or the places it's consumed, serve as social catalysts. Friendship, business, romance. Coffee has been instrumental in them all. I mean, who can deny the power of let's meet over coffee?
Absolutely. As we sign off, I just want to say, this isn't just about your favorite bean brew anymore. It's about making conscious choices, about recognizing how something as simple as coffee could unknowingly dictate our lifestyle, influence our personality, shape our lives in a way. I think it's pretty intriguing. Don't you think?